So after having to call the police 4 times within 3 weeks, an owner of a jewelry, I wouldn't call it costume jewelry. I'm a dude. My jewelry knowledge, other than watches, is limited at best. I looked at the website. It's got some cool stuff. She makes stuff. She had 4 instances where she had to call the police inside of 3 weeks. This is in Ballard, north of downtown Seattle. So she decides to spend the night in her store. That is a bold, aggressive move, considering, you have no idea who's going to be coming through your front door or your front window, however the case may be. So that's what we're talking about here. We are talking about, and this is a continuation of, we are talking about homeowners, business owners, just normal people taking matters into their own hands and doing what they need to do to stand up to the criminal element that is just wildly out of control in so many cities. I mean, I watch the news for crime stories all the time, and we have got a rash of break-ins. We have got a rash of robberies, armed robberies at weed stores. That's a thing like almost every single day. We've got shootings going on galore. We've got all kinds of crime, whether it's petty or, breaking into people's homes. It's escalating, and it's really gone on. And this is in a city that has taken a, good portion of its crime and said, yeah, we need to get those numbers down. So yeah, that's that misdemeanor that used to be a misdemeanor that used to be a crime. Not so much anymore. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, not that important. And so we've got this situation where these criminals are just out doing their own thing. So let's talk about the woman who's the owner of this story, of this store, and see what the deal is there. All right. So before we do, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies here in Bellevue, Washington, just outside of Seattle. And I read news for reasonable people. All right, let's do this. Before we do, let's take a super quick look at the video that came from a surveillance camera within the store on this break-in.
New at 11, a smash and grab thief caught on camera. Take a look at the moment a man busts through the window of this store in Ballard. The owner caught the criminal in the act. After repeated break-ins, she resorted to sleeping in her own shop to keep an eye on it.
Joel Brano live tonight in Seattle with the desperate measures people are taking to keep those crooks at bay. Joel?
Preston and Mary, this is the 4th time in 3 weeks that this jewelry store owner has had to call police. She says there are just not enough officers to respond to all the crime and felt it was up to her to protect her store. This handcrafted jewelry has been a big hit in Ballard since the store opened in October, but it has also attracted trouble. Several break-in attempts have occurred in recent weeks, and when MK Byrne spotted new cracks in the window, she felt something was up.
And I got the clue and the feeling in the back of my head that they'd be back to finish the job.
Byrne spent the night in her store, called Begin, but was jolted awake by a brick crashing through that pre-cracked window, followed by a thief.
It was really scary. This is sort of a sacred space for me.
The man jumped in and started grabbing what he could off the counters, even though Byrne was at the back of the store, screaming at him to get out. The thief seemed unfazed until Byrne and her dog started advancing.
It definitely helped to have a 120-pound dog barking at him.
Byrne started throwing things at the man, finally convincing him to climb back out. She called 911 immediately and says that while officers were quick to arrive, she worries there are too few police to handle all the crime.
They're just spread so thin, they don't really have a lot more to give. So we feel like we have to step in that gap. This is more than just a livelihood for me. This is my passion, and I have to protect it.
Byrne says the thief got away with some of the raw materials she uses to make jewelry that could easily be resold at a scrapyard, but she thinks the thief would have taken a lot more.
So gal who makes jewelry, she's got a nice shop. You can see that from the footage. You can see that from the video. She's got display cases. I mean, it's nice looking stuff. And this is her passion, like she said. And so she's at a point where she's like, yeah. She saw a window that had some like stress cracks in it that looked like it had been tampered with. And so she just got this feeling after 3 other incidences where people are just breaking into her store, whatever those other ones were. So a thief who smashed his way into jewelry store got surprised by the owner and her dog, 120-pound dog. That's a good call right there. That is a smart call, but not everybody has a 120-pound dog, right? So what are other people going to do? Yeah, what I'm afraid they're going to do, and that they're going to arm themselves and shoot those who come into their stores. I mean, that's kind of what we're left with because we don't have enough cops to protect the entire city. While Ballard is being left alone, this store is at 53rd and Ballard Avenue Northwest. That is several miles north of 3rd and Pine and Pike, which is the Blade, where we've got a real emphasis on police right now trying to clean up downtown. So now you've got other areas of the city that aren't going to have as much coverage. And these areas haven't had enough coverage to begin with for the last couple of years anyway, because we're shy like 500 cops in Seattle. Portland, same thing. You got the same deal going on there. You don't have enough cops to keep the city safe. So you've got situations like this, and you've got people taking situations into their own hands, meaning they're sleeping in their own store. Man, that to me, as a business owner and running an office and running a space, that has got to be wildly scary. And then you bring your 120-pound dog, you just sick him on the guy. No, because then you'll get sued, right? So the latest incident was the 4th time in 3 weeks MK Byrne has had to call police. She said there's not enough officers to respond to all the crime and felt it was up to her to protect her store. This is where we're at. This is what has happened in Seattle with all the craziness that's gone on as far as the defunding the police, letting crime go, not prosecuting enough criminals. Guys like this, guaranteed that guy that broke into her store, this isn't his first time. Odds are super high, got a criminal record. Odds are super high. He's been let out multiple times for doing exactly this, right? So the handcrafted jewelry she makes and sells at the shop called Begin, it's been a big hit in Ballard since it opened in October. However, it's also attracted trouble. It's kind of like the dispensaries here. One of my guys, and that's a marijuana store. For those of you who don't live in a state, we've got our own that legally sells weed. Marijuana stores. One of my guys sent me a comic from the Bellevue Reporter today, and it basically said, you got these big signs on dispensaries, cash only, for telling people coming into the store that you can't use your debit or your credit card because weed stores are illegal on the federal level. Therefore, they can't be part of the FDIC, can't be part of the banking system. And so you can only use cash. So all these stores have only cash at this store. If you want to advertise, hey, come in and break into me, one of the ways you can do that is you can have a sign up that says jewelry or a sign that says cash only and weed. Because, what armed thief doesn't want to steal some weed, which is highly liquid? You can sell that all day long, and then steal a bunch of cash. That's just what we've come up with, right? So that's where we're at. So jewelry store, same thing. You're going to have expensive stuff in there or, purported to be expensive stuff. So several break-in attempts have occurred in recent weeks. Then Byrne noticed something suspicious about one of her windows. Uh-oh, that's not good. Every time I go back to my house now, I start looking around. I start looking at things. I just got it in my head from reading all this news that, something not good is going to happen here. There were some little cracks in the glass, and it looked like somebody had been testing to see how the window would break. I got the clue and the feeling in the back of my head that they'd be back to finish the job, Byrne said. Man, so she decides to hunker down with her dog and spend the night and just wait to see what happens. That's some tough stuff right there. Those are difficult decisions. Okay. I'm going to be spending that couldn't have been a good night's sleep, right? Number one, you're sleeping in your workplace. It's not where you're meant to sleep, but like she said in the video, this is like her sacred space. And so she wanted to defend it. Byrne decided to spend the night in her store along with her dog, Taka. Around 5 a.m., she was jolted awake by a brick crashing through that pre-cracked window, followed by a thief. The surveillance camera recorded his every move. It was really scary, she said. This is a sacred space for me. The man jumped in and started grabbing what he could off the counters, even though Byrne was at the back of the store, screaming at him to get out. The thief seemed unfazed until Byrne and her dog started advancing. You can see her coming towards the thief, and the thief is just grabbing stuff. I mean, this is how bad it's gotten. This is literally how bad it's gotten. Thieves know that they've got a long lead time before 911 gets to any calls here in Seattle. We don't have enough cops to go around. So here's one of those incidences that I think could have gone wildly different. Because if now you've got somebody who doesn't have a big dog and they have got a 9mm and things go a wildly different direction, and you are going to hear those stories more commonly in the very near future. You're going to hear those stories. And then people are going to get all worked up of, well, they didn't have to shoot me. Well, actually, you're breaking into their store. You're stealing their livelihood. And so, and we know there aren't enough police. The city's got some liability here too. I don't blame the police department. I blame the city council, and I blame the mayor who was in place at the time when all this stuff kind of went down. The new mayor is trying to unwind things and get things on a better track. Same deal down in Portland, but it's going to be a long time before you get your hands around, a little bit more public safety. Because this kind of stuff, it's going to happen a lot more. It definitely helped to have a 120-pound dog barking at him. That would scare me too. As a real estate appraiser, I have been bitten, I think 3 times. Maybe one of those times was just, a minor bite. But a couple of times I was bitten hard enough to draw just a little bit of blood through my clothes. You're going around measuring somebody's house, and invariably it's the little small yippy dogs that bite you. One bit me like pretty close. I mean, upper thigh. I mean, it was close. It was not a good thing. I remember looking down and just going, what? So you just smack the head of the dog and it goes off running. And you're like, what was that all about? Invariably, homeowners with small yippy dogs. Oh, she's so cute. She won't bite. Those are the ones that bite. But you got a 120-pound dog coming at you. I'm probably going to leave the store too with whatever I've got. So amazing call there. That makes it's reasonable to have a 120-pound dog in this instance, right? So Byrne started throwing things at the man, finally convincing him to climb back out. She called 911 immediately and said that while officers were quick to arrive, she worries that there are too few police to handle all the crime. We know that to be the case. So I think you're going to see more and more instances where people die because they can't get the help that they need. A lot of crimes go unsolved because they can't get, response. Maybe it's not at 5 a.m. when there's not a lot going on in the city. Maybe it's at 10 or 11 p.m. when you got a lot of stuff happening and you don't have enough people and you can't get, police to come when they need to. You're going to have a lot of things go sideways, and it's not going to be pretty. And you're going to have some lawsuits. We've already got multiple lawsuits here in the city of Seattle against the city, basically for negligence that they created an environment where you've got just this lawlessness. CHOP being one. Had a case where somebody was having a heart attack, and because the address was identified as a difficult address to work with as far as 911 goes, okay, that person doesn't like the cops, so don't go there. You got to have a police escort first. So the medic going out to a heart attack victim wasn't able to get in and get the work done on this individual that more than likely would have saved their lives. You've got lawsuits going for that kind of stuff because the city has a duty to have a little bit of public safety for its inhabitants. And we don't have that. And that's why this gal decided, is gal sexist? I don't know. Probably. Sorry. This woman, this business owner decided to sleep in her shop with her big dog. I mean, this is yeah, this is not going to go well down the road for other people in this situation, right? Whether it's the criminals climbing in or the shop owners who are going to take a firearm and shoot somebody. I mean, that's where we're headed, right? They're spread so thin that they don't really have a lot more to give. So we feel like we have to step in that gap, Byrne said. She's talking about store owners. This is more than just a livelihood for me. This is my passion and I have to protect it. Yeah, I feel super bad for these folks that are in these locations, and Ballard has been overrun with crime. It just has. You've got an incredible amount of homelessness going on there. And for a lot of these businesses, it is not a safe environment. And for the people running these businesses, it's not a safe environment. So there's going to be more of this story, and this is going to continue, unfortunately. This isn't just going to end with this story. The thief took some of the raw materials Byrne used to make jewelry, which he said could have been easily resold, which she said could have been easily resold at a scrapyard. She thinks he would have taken much more if he could have stayed in her store a little longer. And I think what she means by that is maybe figured out what, where the good stuff was. Because, when you walk into a store, especially for me as a dude in a jewelry shop, I don't know what's good to begin with. I'm sure this thief didn't either. I mean, he's throwing a brick through a store. This is not a guy that, has done a lot of research at Neiman Marcus or Saks Fifth Avenue for, the good stuff. You know what I mean? Whatever. So guy gets in there and he starts looking around. He just starts grabbing stuff willy-nilly because he doesn't know what to grab. And so she thinks that, maybe he would have gotten away with a bunch more had he been able to be in there for longer. Either which way, horrible, horrible scenario. Somebody feels the need to sleep overnight with their dog in their place of business so that it doesn't get jacked again. So yeah, this is not good. And I am not one, if you've been following this podcast for a long time, I feel like I am really reasonable, but I feel like these stories are really, really ramping up. So if you see examples of these, send them to me. You know the email address. It's on YouTube. It's in the description. Figure that out. And I will cover them because this stuff is going to happen a lot more than not. And I know what you're saying. Hey, why are you in Seattle? All right. That's a really good point. But it's kind of like this woman, business owner, is saying, this is my passion and this is her store. And probably, before crime really ramped up, this looked like a perfect opportunity to have a jewelry store that has access to this demographic. And it sounds like it's been a big benefit to the Ballard community. And yet, when you got that whole jewelry, on your sign outside facing the street or whatever it is, it just makes you a target, just like the weed stores, cash only. So I'm glad this one ended the way it did. I'm glad the thief didn't get away with a whole bunch of stuff. But man, you're going to see some examples of this in the very near future because we're kind of at this crux of, okay, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going sideways. Got to start dropping the hammer on some of these folks. And that means prosecuting people and giving them some jail terms, not letting them back out on the streets. But I've said that a million times before. And here we are with this story. Thanks so much for being here. I'm out. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.